right, welcome everybody. My name is Chris Alamany. You are watching the alberniweather.ca podcast. It is March 14th, 2024. It's a beautiful day outside. We have lots to talk about. So you were going to talk about the forecast coming up, which is looking sunny and warm. We're going to talk about the February and winter summaries. Check out what we had going on there. We're going to talk about El Nino, and then we'll talk a little bit about river, snow, and fire. So let's do that. We've got lots to go for. So, first things first, we have our current conditions. It's 2.7 degrees outside in Port Alberni. Calm winds, good air quality, no rainfall today, and the forecast, like I said, is looking pretty bright and sunny. So today we're expecting, here it says 12 degrees, and tomorrow 16 degrees. Environment Canada is saying 12 degrees and 14 degrees. And up to 18 on the weekend with sun. So awesome! It's spring. It's going to be pretty great. So let's take a closer look at that forecast. Why don't we? So we'll go to the University of Washington. I have it open here. There it is. So let's look at those temperatures first of all, and I believe it should be, are we on to, no, we're not yet. So in the next few weeks here, the University of Washington will be changing their scale to go into the summer months. So it'll go up past 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I really wish they would use Celsius, but that's okay. So let's look at what they're expecting. So we'll look, here is Wednesday. So this is from last night, going into Thursday. There's those warm temperatures up into the 60s Fahrenheit. So getting into the tens Celsius. And that's Thursday. Going into Friday afternoon, you can see it warms up quite a bit, and you can actually see, if I zoom in here, so just take note of the scale here, 72, that's 20 degrees. Let me just confirm that, because I don't always get the conversions right on Fahrenheit to Celsius. Yeah, 70 degrees is 20 degrees, so 72 is 22. That's good to know. So that's the bright pink here to light pink. So let's go look for those colors. Why don't we? So if I zoom in here, oh, you're getting pretty close. So this is looking like maybe 18, 20. Oops. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So if we go down to the scale, that's this guy right here. So getting up to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, to be precise, 21. That's tomorrow. That's Friday. So the University of Washington says we could get as high as 20 degrees tomorrow on Friday. Now getting into the weekend, let's move this forward. You can see it stays pretty warm during the morning, and then into Saturday, look at that. We got bright pink. That's over 20 degrees. And that's pretty that's pretty clear. It's not a little dot. That's the entire Alberni Valley. It's expecting over 20 degrees. So that would be something. I don't know if that's a record. We're getting into, mid-March, so we've had 20-degree days in March in the past, but yeah, that's definitely warm. So that looks like the warmest day. It gets a little cools off a little bit on Sunday, but that's still here. That's still 20 degrees, over 20 degrees in the valley from the University of Washington model. So that's a big deal. Our first 20-degree day of the year. Um, let's look then, just to get an idea of some comparisons. Why don't we look at the SpotX forecast for the next couple days? So it's great because it has some nice variety of models, and so we can do some comparisons. So let's look at the Canadian model here. So this is the RDAPS model, and we can see here uh, Thursday high of 9 degrees, Friday high of 10 degrees, Saturday high of 15-ish degrees, and then 16 on Sunday. So it's definitely a little cooler, that one. Let's look at that one. Won't, I don't know if this one is going to actually get out to Sunday. Yeah, not quite. This is the super high resolution one, so it's very short term, but it should be very accurate. So it says 11 degrees tomorrow. Today, and tomorrow up to 14 degrees. So that's in line with the UWash. And let's look at the super long range guy, because that'll give us a look farther out. So this one, let's look at the max temperature. Thursday it has 10, so a little warmer than what Environment Canada is saying. Friday 13, Saturday 15, Sunday 15. So not as hot as the University of Washington. So we'll see. There's not a lot of agreement with the other models there for that forecast. So let's just look, because the University of Washington is based on the United States GFS model. So why don't we look at that one here at SpotX? It'll be slightly different. So there, Thursday 10, Friday 15, Saturday 19, Sunday 18. So this one is definitely closer to the University of Washington. So that's pretty interesting stuff. So whatever happens, if we get up to that University of Washington 20 degrees and over, then great. If not, it's definitely going to be feeling warm anyway. So if I go back to the long range just to get a feel for the rest of the month, you can see that the expectation is for this to be the peak for heat this month. It'll go back down to normal temperatures towards the end of the month, and under 10 degrees for max temperatures for the most part. And for precipitation, it's looking dry for the next few days. We're gonna have some clear skies, hopefully, and that's gonna be keeping us dry. There is a little bit of precipitation likely maybe in the last part of the month. So we'll still get a little bit more rain, end of the month, hopefully. It does have, oh no, it doesn't. So no snow. So I think we're probably done for snow for the year, or at least for this winter. So that's notable. And we'll get to the snowpack here in a little second. Yeah, that's what it's looking like for the rest of the month. So this will be our hot spell for March. It'll stay dry and then it should cool off next week and for the rest of the month. And we should get a little bit more rain towards the end of the month here. It says 30 millimeters by the end of the month. Not great. Not Probably won't bring us to normal as far as rainfall for the month. I definitely not. But at least it'll be some towards the end of the month there to bring us into April. Okay, so let's look at the snowpack just to see if anything's updated. I was going to update, or I was going to make a podcast on Sunday. A couple reasons I didn't. Number one, I wasn't feeling very well. That was the main reason. I also noticed that they hadn't updated the conditions on the chart here from Friday. So, oh, you know what? And they still haven't updated it. So there you go. So I was hoping that they would have updated it by now, but as you can see, it still only goes to March 1st. So that's unusual. So we'll have to wait, I guess, to see if they'll update it this weekend. Hopefully Monday. That should update both the 8th and the 15th. So we're a couple weeks behind now. We haven't got any new data from there. So they still have their March 1st snow condition summary. We did, like I mentioned in the last video, we recovered a little bit as far as snowpack. Got up to about 50 or 60% of normal, but it's still below normal. Still below normal. Okay, so I don't think there are any warnings or advisories for the River Forecast Center. No, that should be all good. And the last thing I want to show you here as far as looking out for things is the BC Wildfire Center. And let's just look at that. So we'll go down to the wildfires. There we go. You can see there's nothing in, oh, there's actually one fire. There we go. Coastal Fire Center. Yeah, so it looks like Coastal Fire Center had its first fire there of the season, just near, like on the other side of Campbell River, maybe yeah, it looks like it's on one of the islands there. So small fire, probably human caused, but because we haven't had any, doesn't say. No. Oh, there. Suspected cause human. We haven't had any lightning or anything like that, so it would have to be human. So there you go. So we've had our first tiny little fire of the year, but that should hopefully not start to get active as far as the Coastal Fire Center until May, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit. Let's look at the almanac here. I just want to show you, if we go back to the week, you can see, there we go. So just our rainfall that we had there in the past couple days. So we got just over 25 millimeters on the 8th and a little bit more than that on the 9th, then tapered off. So that's been our main rain for the month so far. And if we look at the total for the month, let's just go to the month here. Month, we have rain 92 millimeters so far. So that's pretty good for the month of May. That's, I think normal is around 130, 150, something like that. So, you never know. We might get to normal. That would be good. Um, Next thing I want to show you here is El Nino. So they've put out the latest El Nino summary just yesterday, actually. I think it was yesterday. Maybe it was the day before. It was March 11th. There you go. So main summary is there's still an El Nino advisory. We are still in El Nino conditions in the South Pacific or the Mid-Pacific El Nino area. So it says equatorial sea surface temperatures are above average across the central and eastern Pacific Oceans. The tropical Pacific atmosphere anomalies are consistent with El Nino. A transition from El Nino to neutral is likely by April to June 2024. So that's a 79% chance. So good chance of that. With increasing odds of a La Nina developing in June to August. So we might end up with this being quite a short El Nino period, and we might be back into La Nina conditions even before fall. So that's significant. That'll impact our sort of our outlook long term for rain. La Ninas are usually drier than El Ninos. They're usually cooler than El Ninos for our region. So, yeah, so that might give you a hint of what's to come next fall and winter. But that's still a long ways out. The odds of a La Nina are just above half, so there's plenty of chance there that it could just be a neutral, or it could switch back into an El Nino. So we'll wait a little bit on that for the winter months, but it definitely looks like they're expecting El Nino to switch or to go away from El Nino conditions to neutral conditions, and then we'll see where we go from there. So that's El Nino. And if you want to see more about that, there's lots of information. If you search for El Nino discussion on Google, this page generally comes right up. You'll be able to find it pretty easily. It's a big long link, so I don't usually link it. But if you search for El Nino discussion, then it'll come right up. There you go. Okay, so that's El Nino. Last but not least, I just want to go through the summary from last month and from the winter. So I'm going to bring up my spreadsheet here. Let's see, make sure I have the right one. This guy. There we go. So just looking at our graphs from the month, just bring this down a bit so it fits in. So this is for winter, so I got to add a new spot onto the winter graph. We're close to the end of the graph here, 2025. I'm going to have to lengthen it out next year to 2030, so that's exciting. But just looking at the graphs, if we look at these in terms of where they kind of sit in the long range of things, so this past winter, so this is December, January, February, the maximum extreme temperatures this year was 13 at the airport, just under 13, 12.9 I think. In town it was just over 15. So that's pretty near average for the winter months. So we haven't seen anything too extreme there. And I thought this was interesting because I don't know if you can see it, but maybe, and perhaps it is more of a function of the sensors becoming a little more accurate, but I think the earlier part of the record here is a little more spread out, and it seems to tighten up in the later years. So maybe that's just a function of better recording, or maybe it is really, um, you know, coalescing towards that 13 degree as our maximum, um, over the winter. So that's interesting. As far as minimums, a lot more variety you can see in the graph here, and there was a lot of variety in the temperatures for this year. So the airport and Robertson Creek were down below -13, I believe it was, this year. Um, my station only got down to just below -3. So there's a big change. There's a big difference there between the valley stations and the city stations, and it's always been that way. It's not, it's not a function of the urban heat island effect or anything like that. I don't think, because we can see that in the Redford um, records back in the 60s. There was a lot less urban heat island even back then compared to now, but we still saw that same kind of difference. So there's our, Redford station, and the Lipsey station at the time, and you can see there's some big gaps there between those and the Beaver Creek stations. So not unusual for there to be that gap. If we what was it? So yeah, about -13. So not anything really notable. The most extreme minimum temperature is -25 for winter. That's a January value that we saw last month, comparatively anyway, and that's back in 1950. So we've definitely seen a rise in those extreme minimums over time. I don't think we'll be getting to -25 anytime soon, if ever. Winter rainfall, we were fairly close to the all-time average, at least on this graph. So that's good news. Although I think if you look at the the expected normal amounts, we were still quite far below. So it comes out looking okay on this graph, but you'll notice if you look at the 90s, 80s, you can see we were up around 1,200 millimeters quite frequently, over 1,000 millimeters easily, very frequently over that 50s to 2000s, and then it really drops off after the 2000s, sort of in this century. So I think that's the biggest concern. That winter rainfall amount seems to be declining. That's a problem. So yeah. So we're around 700, 800 this winter. Mean temperatures, quite a bit above average actually, for all of the stations. So we were up towards the top end here. Oh, that's funny. This has rainfall in there. That's a mistake. Let's get rid of that. Well, I'll do that later. Anyway, this says rainfall, but that's actually temperature. These are all temperature values, so I'll change that. But yeah, there's our values for this winter. Around 4 degrees was the average, which is fairly warm for an overall average. The average maximums, again, a little bit above average towards the higher end here along the all-time scale. So again, that's notable. And the average minimum temperatures again, towards the top end here. The average minimum was actually over 0 degrees for all stations, and that's notable. That's the average for the airport station should be below zero for the winter months. It was not below zero this year, so that's an indication, I think, of why we're not seeing as much snow. So that's winter. If we look at the February picture, here we go. So we'll just zoom out here a little bit. Oops. So again, very similar to the other ones. I won't go into it too much, but you can see the maximum temperatures were around average. The city temperature was a little higher. Minimum temperatures above average, and certainly far away from the all-time minimums. There, 1950 again, -17 was the all-time low ever recorded for February in Alberni Valley. We're not anywhere near that. I don't expect we ever will be. Rainfall, well below average. Again, you can see that fall off here from about 1960, 1970. February is diminishing as far as sort of contributing to our winter time rainfall or precipitation. So you can see here, in the earlier century, earlier 20th century, you can see it's contributing 200, 300, 400 millimeters of rain. We haven't seen, we've only have 2 points here that are above 300 millimeters in the last 10 years, going back to what is this? Oh, this is 1999, that we got 500 millimeters. So that's a spike. That's actually the highest ever recorded. That happened 23 years ago, 24 years ago. That was the last time that we were above 400 millimeters, and really only the third time we've recorded anything above 300 millimeters in February. So February is becoming drier, and that is a problem. I think that's not what we expect as far as our climate went in the mid to late 20th century. Mean temperatures, we're a little above average, as we were for the winter on a whole. Average maximums, again, above average, and average minimums, again, above average. But I think the biggest one here is that rainfall, and we need to make sure that we keep an eye on that. I think that's really where we're losing our moisture content, maybe is the February numbers as far as winter goes. Okay, so that's the graphs, what we can glean from that. I just want to go to, just a reminder, there's the time lapse. You can check that out for last month. And just a note, we did have 2 daily records in February. One at the very beginning, one at the very end. So we had a high temperature there, 11 degrees, tied with 2005 at the airport. The all-time was 12 degrees back in 1906 and 1924. So reasonably close to an all-time high. February 28th, we had a record at the airport, a modern record, 50 millimeters for that day. But the all-time is 94 millimeters for 1947. So not anywhere close to that. So that's what we got for the summary. You can check all of that out. You can check all of the stats. You can see the precipitation here. So this is for, I have January there. It should be February. So this is February. I'll have to update that, but February normal was 278 millimeters at the Robertson Creek. We only got 41% of that at the airport officially. In town, we got 50% of normal of what the SOMAS normally gets, averaged out to all of our stations. So yeah, definitely not our normal amount of precipitation. And if we look at the winter as a whole, you can see 85% of normal for our precipitation, so definitely below normal. And I wanted to point this out too, the days of precipitation. So this is the days that it rains a measurable amount. So either 0.2 millimeters, which is just a trace enough to notice, 5 millimeters, 10 millimeters or more, or 25 millimeters or more. You can see that we were fairly close to normal on the low end. So, those days when it felt like it was rainy, or it did rain. A little less on the 5 millimeters, which is sort of a good measurable amount that makes a difference. And then 10 millimeters, we only had 22 days of 10 millimeters or more over the winter. Our normal is 28. So that's a full week plus one of less of rain days. And for 25 millimeters or more, we only had 7 days over 25 millimeters. Our normal is 13, so that's basically half, just less than half the normal. So we're really missing out on those larger days of rain and precipitation in February compared to normal. And certainly that is also true in the winter. So this is the winter value. If we look at the February value, it's very much the same. So look at this. There's 10 millimeters or more. The normal is 8.5 days. We only had 2 days with more than 10 millimeters in February. We only had 1 day, that one 50 millimeter day, instead of 4 for February. So way lower than what we should see normally. Okay, I think that's where I'll leave it. Thank you very much for tuning in and checking this out. Please do subscribe, like the video if you can, share it around, and I'll see you again soon. All right, bye.